Welcome to A Soldier's Day, a Channel 8 special event. I'm Megan Miller.
And I'm Lacey Siefken. Throughout this special, we will take a look at the men and women fighting for their country and the families they leave behind, right here on Channel 8 News.
I'm Megan Miller.
And I'm Lacey Siefken. Today we will reconnect a deployed soldier and his wife, visit a family still grieving the loss of a father killed in action, as well as visit our neighbors on Fort Riley.
But first, the news. ISIS has made a new home, Egypt. From a YouTube video posted Sunday, Sinai-based militant group Ansar Beit al-Maqdis, or ABD, announced their alliance to ISIS. Close to a 10-minute clip calls ISIS the emergence of a new dawn, stating that tyrants and their Jewish agents and allies are the reason for decades of Muslim suffering. ABD is Egypt's most dangerous group, plaguing the country since 2012. The group, having a size that could be nearly 1,000, has killed hundreds of Egyptian police and soldiers. ABD's wrath has been contained to Egypt, but with this deadly alliance with ISIS, fear that the carnage could spread is rising. Every day, we use apps like Facebook, Twitter, and Foursquare to document our lives and connect to others. But what happens when that power falls into the wrong hands?
Channel 8 reporter Gardner Jordan took a look at ISIS' impact on social media.
Over the years, social media has taken the world by storm, and now a terrorist group the world has become familiar with is using social media to strike fear into others. ISIS, not your K-State online student management site, but the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, a terrorist organization. The stated goal by ISIS is to create a broader Islamic caliphate. The Islamic State of Iraq and Syria has been all over social media sites trying to recruit and promote their war, and even went as far as creating a trailer for the war.
Well, they post videos and about how good they're treating people in the areas they're controlling.
For me, as a communication scholar, what I have taken notice of is how well they are using social media, because that is in the big changes that are taking place in the communication landscape or architecture. Social media is the new frontier. It keeps changing, it keeps evolving, and I think ISIS has found a way of reaching young people using social media as opposed to traditional media.
I've seen the first 20 minutes of the video actually, because they put released 20 minutes, 3 parts. I think I've seen the first part. The first part is about Syria. This is how they have control of it, in some part. And they have a whole government over there, they have ministries, they have justice courts and everything. It's they have a full function government going on there.
I think it's terrifying. I think it's effective because of social media. I think it's effective because of the fact that they can get it out through technology and everyone can see it and be afraid.
I mean, I'm guilty of this as well, but I feel like it's a bigger deal than a lot of people understand it to be. I feel like people need to definitely educate themselves on what's going on.
I think that people are so interested in the situation that people are going to keep asking for information, so the social media is going to keep spreading that as much as it can. But yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword there where we're getting the information out, but that's also exactly what they probably want.
Social media sites are beginning to ban ISIS accounts and posts, but this has not halted ISIS from using this new type of warfare. Being the reporter on this story really opened my eyes to what's going on over there, and I really did learn a lot.
It's been nearly a month since Fort Riley's Big Red 1 was deployed to combat ISIS. Channel 8 reporter Lindsay McNary was there to see our soldiers sent off in style.
That's right, Lacey. I got to witness an amazing ceremony to remember those deployed and those inspire those to come. From the speakers to the cannon firing, it was a great way to send off our troops.
From the earliest of times, warriors have used a banner or other symbol to identify units and to serve as a rallying point for their troops. The location of the unit's banner in battle indicated the position of the regiment on the battlefield and the location of its command. The color party marched at the front of the formation and became prime targets, as victories in those days were expressed in terms of the number of enemy colors captured. The color party bore the brunt of the battle and often suffered heavy casualties. If the commander fell, someone would rally to the colors and assume the position of unit leadership. As we case the colors today, we pay tribute to those who have gone before and are mindful of the task ahead.
I gotta tell you, you look out on that field, you see the colors snapping, the soldiers at attention, and you see the resoluteness of our nation. That is America's signature. That is what right looks like. And if you didn't get, if the hair didn't stand up on your arms and heart didn't beat a little faster when young PFC Luna sang the national anthem, well, you're in the wrong doggone place. Soon, the Big Red One will add a new chapter to its legacy. I'm incredibly proud of our Big Red One soldiers. Please give them a round of applause. We are ready. You are ready. You are brave. You are responsible. And you are on point for our nation, units, and families. Make this nation proud. No mission too difficult, no sacrifice too great. Duty first, victory. My name is Paul Funk, and I am a Big Red One soldier.
This ceremony was a great way to remember those who are being deployed and those that inspire us every day, especially in account for Veterans Day. It was a great time and a great ceremony, especially with all the cannons firing.
Thank you, Lindsay. We wish them a safe return home.
Yes.
Saying goodbye is hard, and saying it to your husband who's going to another continent is harder. Reporter Daniela Martinez Serrano got the chance to see the family's preparation for deployment.
Thank you, Megan. And Lacey, they say goodbye becomes easier the more you say it, but for this family, it's always like the first time.
Sergeant First Class Abram Pennington, Public Affairs Chief, was one of the soldiers selected of this group to go to Iraq.
My first deployment was in 2012 through 2013, and my primary role was to manage and run a public affairs office, journalists and broadcasters, as well as manage an embedded media program while we were there.
Pennington's first deployment lasted 9 months. This upcoming deployment will be the longest Pennington will be away from his wife, Lindsay, and their dogs, Gus and Dunham.
I think the toughest is I mean, obviously not having him there at night, not having that quality bonding time that you're used to, dinners alone.
It is a bittersweet time in the Pennington household. Pennington's deploy time creeps closer and closer, so the couple tries to savor each moment they have with each other in every way they can.
You build a life together when you're married. You know, you have a home, and you fill it with memories, and you fill it with belongings, and you build your life, and then suddenly you have to subtract it. You know, you have to divide that. It just meant a lot.
Lindsay is aware about the danger that this mission can bring to her family, but tries to stay as optimistic as possible.
I watch maybe a little bit of the news while he's gone, but I try not to follow it too closely. And there's times where I'm a firm believer that ignorance is bliss, and him being deployed is one of those times where I think sometimes it's better just to turn a blind eye to it.
Anniversaries, birthdays, and hunting trips are some of the things Pennington will miss. However, he is aware that his service to his country triumphs all his other roles.
We have a very important mission over there to help the coalition with the ISIS threat, and we're there to support and see what we can do there.
I'm doing well, and good evening. I would have to say the biggest difference so far is that with this deployment, we are building our capabilities, and we're building our plans and stuff from the ground up. Whereas before my previous deployments, we kind of fell into established SOP or standard order procedures and stuff like that. So this one is a little bit different. We're actually pretty much from the ground up, we're building this operation right now. I see the need for us to help build the Iraqi security force capacity as much as possible, and if that includes additional troops, then by all means, then we're here to support that mission. So it's basically whatever we're here to do in regards to building their capacity, both within the government and within the military. Then that's what we're here to do. Today got up, and then I took my soldiers for a run, and then after that we got in and we kind of worked on some of our paperwork and whatnot, trying to get some of our SOPs in place, and we kind of fine-tooth combed them, I should say, today. And then after that we went to dinner, and there is a USO concert here tonight, so they went to the concert and I'm here with you. Yeah. And how? No, go ahead. Yeah, I've been reading about the weather there. You guys are getting this bomb cyclone, I heard. I can't believe it's that cold this early in November for you guys. I would trade you. I would trade you. It's 95 degrees during the day here, and at night it feels like it's 35 degrees at night. I think it gets down to like 60, but it's cold. Very, very cold at night here. No, I'm still waiting, so you can hold on to the blankets for now. How are the dogs? Nice. I was going through some of the photos that we put on the Mac before I deployed, and I was looking at the photos of Dunham when he was like 6 weeks old, and he's just gotten so big. And then I was looking at the photos of when you and I went to go pick him up, and he's still got the same look in his eyes. It was. Yeah, he's got a bigger beard. But it was nice, so. All right, well, I love you. I miss you. All right.
We'd like to thank both
Bye.
Sergeant First Class Abraham Pennington and his wife Lindsay for being on the show. That was beautiful.
Coming up later in the show, we take a look at lasting effects war has had on soldiers and their loved ones. Stay tuned.
It was a routine grain elevator inspection until the explosions began. Until a blast tossed him more than 300 feet. Then it became the event that changed Kevin Saunders forever. The body of this K-State alum was broken, But his spirit? Well, that spirit not only survived, it thrived. Against all odds, Saunders transformed himself into the world's greatest wheelchair athlete, one of America's premier motivational speakers, and the first Paralympian appointed to the President's Council on Physical Fitness, Sport, and Nutrition. Where there's a Wildcat, there's a way. Wired magazine calls him the explainer. His students call him amazing. Over 20 million YouTube views show that Associate Anthropology Professor Michael Wesch is transforming higher education. Translated to more than 20 languages and counting, Professor Wesch's teachings still share one common voice: passion. And whether you're learning live or online, that passion is contagious. And that passion is one of the leading reasons Kansas State University is first among U.S. public research universities in producing U.S. Case Carnegie Professors of the Year. Where there's a Wildcat, there's a way.
Welcome back. I'm Megan Miller.
And I'm Lacey Siefkin. Recently, Channel 8 news reporter Mary Claire Cunningham went on assignment to find out the impact of war on families.
Thanks, Lacey. Thanks, Megan. We got the opportunity to sit down with Kelly McHugh and hear her story. Kelly's father was killed in Afghanistan almost 5 years ago. She says her and her family continue to miss his presence.
Just shy of being an adult, Kelly McHugh lost her father, Colonel John McHugh, to a suicide bomber in Afghanistan.
My name is Kelly McHugh, and on May 18th, 2010, when I was 18 years old, my dad, Colonel John McHugh, was killed in Kabul, Afghanistan.
When her father first told her of his plan to work in Afghanistan, Kelly says she wasn't worried because as far as she knew, he was only staying a few days for a training program.
That year, he was in a job where he traveled all the time. That year that we were stationed at Fort Leavenworth, he was going to and from Fort Hood, Texas, and then he'd go to Afghanistan. He'd go all over. So when he said he was going to Afghanistan, we kind of didn't really, play as much into our heads as, we probably should have.
The images from the day Kelly was told her dad was killed are images she will never forget.
Like I said, we were stationed on Fort Leavenworth. I was a freshman. I had transferred from one college, so I was at a community college that semester, and I worked at a local pool. So that morning I was teaching swim lessons, and I got a call from my mom telling me, hey, I need to come home. So finally I did. I got another call, and it was pretty serious, and so I could tell something was up. And so I told my boss, hey, I gotta go home. So then I pulled onto our street, and you see the government cars parked in your driveway, and that's one sight that I'll never forget. And it's one thing that every kid growing up in the military, you just associate it with exactly what happened. I went inside, and sure enough, two men in uniform were standing there. They had already told my mom, and my siblings, my younger siblings, were all at home. And when my mom told me, I was just kind of in disbelief.
With a wedding coming up, she thinks about the milestones that have made it harder for her to accept the death of her dad.
My fiance and I are getting married on my parents' anniversary. So I remember when I asked my mom that, she, it was really emotional, but it's neat to share moments like that.
As hard as losing a loved one is, Kelly continues to accept the reality and make the most of her life now.
It doesn't get easier, but you just kind of get used to it, and my mom always says it's a new normal. And so, we're a Gold Star family. That's what they call a family who's had a, family member killed in action. And it's just like, it's like being in a club that you didn't want to join, but now that you're in it for life.
So, as you can tell, Kelly has an incredible story, and I think what made it even more incredible was the attitude and outlook she has on life. She wanted people to know how much of an impact her dad made on her life as well as on others in the small time she got to spend with him.
Post-traumatic stress disorder has plagued many of our brave men and women as they return home from war. Channel 8 reporter Alyssa Lowley met up with one veteran who is recovering from PTSD.
Thank you, Lacey. After troops deploy to war, they bring back more than their gear. They enjoy motorcycling, making art together, and going to movies. They try to be as normal a couple as possible. Russell enlisted in the United States Army when he was 22. He served in the Army for 9 years and was deployed in Bosnia and Kuwait. Russell is like many of his veteran comrades. He suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. Many soldiers witness traumatic experiences while serving, but for an increasing number of troops, life after war can be just as challenging as the battlefield. Some soldiers, including Russell, don't even realize at first they have PTSD.
It's a scar on the soul.
For Cheryl, it's a struggle to try and help. For Russell, it's a scar that's left him feeling hopeless and alone.
I go through depression, anxiety, OCD.
Sleeplessness.
I don't sleep very well. Anger issues.
Like many veterans, Russell attempted to take his own life.
I tried to commit suicide quite a few years ago.
Fortunately, Russell got the help and support he needed from the Veterans Affairs Office. The effects of PTSD are far-reaching. Families of veterans suffer with their loved ones.
I am now joined by K-State PTSD specialist, Dr. Brianna Nelson-Goff. Brianna, can you tell us a little bit about what PTSD is?
Yes, post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is an issue that has plagued generations of veterans and other individuals. It's not just related to war trauma, but can be related to other types of traumatic events like domestic violence or childhood abuse. And so post-traumatic stress disorder is something that oftentimes people have things like nightmares, they may experience depression, or they may have more severe types of symptoms like flashbacks, intrusive memories, problems with sleeping, and other types of issues.
And for military families or soldiers that have been deployed, what is the biggest thing that you guys see PTSD affects them?
Sure. Probably the biggest thing, if a soldier comes back, one of the things that military service members say is that war affects you. It just does. Going to war has a permanent impact on soldiers. It also has a permanent impact on families. They have experienced the deployment, even if they're not overseas, just as much as the service member has. They're worrying about the service member, they're trying to figure out what's happening, and just as we saw earlier, oftentimes they have very immediate connection with what's happening overseas, either from the news, from Skype, from instant messaging, and so they oftentimes know what's happening almost in real time. And so that can be very, very stressful for families. But when a service member returns home and has symptoms of post-traumatic stress, it can greatly impact the family. It can impact marital relationships. That's an area that I've studied for the last 20 years. It can impact parenting relationships. It can affect how children function. And again, if it's something that's left untreated and goes on for a longer period of time, can have very permanent effects both on the service member as well as their family members.
Now, you did touch on this a little bit. So is PTSD something that can be fully overcome by a soldier or somebody who has had it?
Sure, that's a great question. People can recover from post-traumatic stress disorder. There are a number of treatments that are available. Many of them are empirically based or evidence-based types of treatments. Unfortunately, there's not a pill for PTSD. There may be medications that help with the symptoms. And again, if it's something that has gone on for years, because of the permanent changes that can occur within the person's biological makeup within the brain, again, oftentimes the symptoms become very permanent as well. But for many people, if the treatment occurs early, there can be almost full recovery. It doesn't mean that there won't be issues that come up, but can be full recovery.
And we've kind of talked about this a little bit. You guys have an institution here. Can you touch a little bit on that?
Sure. We have the Institute for the Health and Security of Military Families, which we initiated in 2009, so we're right at 5 years. And one of the things that we do is provide education, research, outreach types of programs to support military families.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much
for
joining
having me
us today. Back to you guys.
Many troops come home with injuries after being deployed overseas.
However, for one former soldier, those injuries didn't stop him from helping out his fellow service members. Channel 8 reporter Zoldy DeUnion has the story.
Thanks, Megan. Yes, many soldiers get hurt while serving for their country, but check out how an injury gave one wounded warrior a reason to make a difference in their community.
Thomas Tabtegan is just like any other man his age. He loves to grill, watches sports, and loves to hunt. However, if it wasn't for one fateful day 6 years ago, he might not even be here to enjoy those hobbies.
I was pretty lucky.
20 years in the Army, but it wasn't until Iraq when his life changed forever.
On August 14, 2008 is when I was involved in an IED explosion.
IED, or improvised explosive device, is a homemade bomb commonly used by terrorist groups. That's what hit Tabtegan's vehicle while they were on night patrol.
Just vaporized the whole front end of that vehicle and just made a mess of the inside, and unfortunately I was injured.
But his injuries didn't stop him, and instead gave him a new mission: to help stop a disturbing statistic.
The stats say that 22 veterans commit suicide a day.
He started Wounded Warriors United, an organization that invites wounded and combat veterans to participate in activities such as hunting, fishing, and camping, with the full intention of getting the guys out of the house and into a good atmosphere.
If we can stop those guys from hurting themselves, then I think we're going to be successful.
Wounded Warriors United now has over 5,000 likes on Facebook, showing the overwhelming support the community has on these soldiers, something that Tabtegan takes to heart.
We're a force to be reckoned with in the Midwest, so I'm pretty proud of that.
Now, Tabtegan suffered neck and knee injuries from that explosion, and he even says he still feels the effects today. Yet he still goes out to those events in support of other wounded soldiers.
And it's great to see those soldiers having a great time. Thanks, Soldy. As the riding season ends, there are some hardcore bikers that ride no matter the season.
You can hear the rumbling of their bikes in almost any weather to ride for a cause. Channel 8 News reporter Russell Edom is here to explain their mission.
That's right, Megan and Lacey. These bikers never stop riding to help children in need. Every biker enjoys the open road on their motorcycle, but for some bikers, they ride for a cause. These bikers roll in on thundering steel to help abused children. The bikers I'm talking about are known as BACA, or Bikers Against Child Abuse. According to the Kansas Department for Children and Families, over 9,000 Kansas children were abused and neglected this year, and BACA is fighting back to help these children.
We're Bikers Against Child Abuse. So we have just started up in Waubonsee County, Pottawatomie County, Riley County, Gary County, and all our surroundings.
This is all the
We have a 1-800 number. If you know of anybody that needs us, they can give us a call and see if there's someone that we can help. But typically what we do is empower children to not be afraid. We go to court with them. We are there for them. We don't do anything on the case part of it, just to be a support for the child.
The main goal of BACA is to ride out and empower children to live without fear and let them know they are not alone in their fight.
Empower and abuse kids. And that's our main goal, is a kid that's been abused is go out and empower them to take their life back to them.
BACA is nationwide and just rolled into Manhattan with a new chapter that will help not only Manhattan, but the surrounding communities with child abuse cases. If you know a child that is in need, you can contact BACA at 785-706-1676. Riding on a bike all day makes your skin pretty tough, but these bikers still have a soft spot inside.
Thanks, Russ. Coming up, we take a look at what sets Fort Riley apart from other Army bases around the country. We take a look into the ROTC program.
As well as witness a random act of patriotism. Stay with us.
So cute and cuddly. I'm also very charming. I'll tell you what you want to hear and sweep you off your feet. I'm also spontaneous, maybe a little erratic at times. I take risks most people wouldn't, but that makes me fun. I'm also very persuasive. I can convince you to do something you'd never dream of doing. And you'll love my stories. I usually stretch the truth a little bit, but you'll believe me because I'm such a good liar. I'm never wrong, and I never feel guilty. I always win, but just look how cute and innocent I look. I can fool you, your parents. I can even fool your friends. Trust me.
Powerful ideas are sparked by a natural curiosity. It could begin with a single seed or a brilliant ray of light. At Kansas State University, it begins with research that advances the world, where science and creativity meet. At Kansas State University, powerful ideas begin with you.
Welcome back to our special Soldier edition of Channel 8 News. I'm Megan Miller.
And I'm Lacey Siefkin. In the past few months, there has been growing concern amongst the American public regarding the militant group, the Islamic State, and its expanding power in Iraq and Syria.
Recently, President Obama announced the United States will double the amount of troops sent to fight the Islamic State of militants in the region.
Channel 8 reporter Alyssa Lally had an opportunity to interview Kansas Senator Jerry Moran, and here's what he had to say in regards to ISIS.
There's this gridlock plus this partisanship that many Americans are very tired of, and so absolutely understand that members of Congress, Republican and Democrat, aren't very popular across the country. People are fed up.
There are many things that set
in this, that the president ought to ask Congress for authority. In my view, that's not another resolution that simply says the president can use force. I've come to the conclusion over a period of time that I've been in Congress that it generally is going to take a declaration of war. It's significant enough that Congress ought to put its stamp of approval, if it decides to do so, on the use of military force, because we believe that's the threat is so serious that this is necessary. And too often, I think, Congress and the president try to downplay the seriousness of any military action. That it usually ends up in the circumstance in which the American people don't know what to believe. If the debate never occurred, if Congress never went so far as to declare war as authorized under the Constitution, then I think we are failing our military men and women who are being asked to sacrifice ultimately their lives for something that Congress has never said much about.
There are many things that set Fort Riley apart from other Army bases around the country, such as being the first ones to deploy soldiers to combat ISIS.
Another is having the ability to land military aircraft carrying cargo and soldiers alike on a dirt runway, a feat that has not been done in 25 years. Reporter Daniela Martinez Serrano went out and saw this in action.
The C-130 coming in for landing is from the Montana Air National Guard. The plane's cargo is military police and their Humvees. Touchdown. This is no ordinary runway. This is dirt, not a concrete runway.
This morning we had the distinct privilege of working with the Montana National Guard, the Air National Guard, and Fort Riley, Kansas, and certifying the first flight landing strip in over 25 years since anything like this has been done.
This real-life exercise for airmen and soldiers helped validate the dirt airstrip's ability to land big planes, but it does not make the ride very smooth.
When we first took off, it was a pretty bumpy ride. You know, I'd never been on like a C-130 before. Obviously, your stomach drops a little bit, like you're on a roller coaster and stuff. So it was really once-in-a-lifetime experience.
The intent of this training was to deliver the cargo as fast as they could.
They landed, they offloaded with the vehicle and the soldiers, and that took all within 10 minutes. So the ability to rapidly deploy forces from Fort Riley, Kansas is something that I think that we should be very proud of. The surrounding community should be very proud of.
But now it is time to go. Tempany stressed the impact that this certification landing strip will have on the community.
It is a distinct capability that Fort Riley has compared to other installations around the United States.
Some of our fellow students joined the military to defend our freedom abroad. Channel 8 reporter Paul Cannon has an in-depth look at our ROTC program. Paul?
Thank you, Megan and Lacey. K-State has a program of their own that prepares their own students to defend the country's freedom abroad, but also to mold into strong leaders of the future.
But it ended up being one of the best choices made for me in my life. Very welcoming atmosphere.
That type of atmosphere that prepares ROTC students for battle.
Wanting to serve has kind of been something I've always wanted to do.
It's early, it's chilly. They're running by the light of the moon. ROTC prepares students for serving overseas and becoming leaders in the community.
Yes, obviously. I chose this option to come here to K-State and to join ROTC knowingly with the fact that I will have to go back and serve, which I'm very proud and happy to do.
Physical testing 3 times a week at 6 a.m. That is what is required for ROTC students. Students running up and down the stairs of Old Stadium test their endurance. Following their drill sergeants, students would engage in a variety of exercises in between running. Students like Zach Erb, ROTC is a way of life in the classroom as well.
Well, ROTC is a very demanding curriculum. Classes typically from once to twice a week, and numerous meetings and other obligations that are required upon us, in addition to being a full-time student. And oftentimes we have obligations that extend into the weekend.
ROTC Reserve Officer Training Corps provides students with the opportunity to be successful in life through discipline.
I would say that everyone in ROTC knowingly is part of this program because they want to better themselves. They're one of the best organizations in the United States.
Earp says ROTC may look hard, but people actually get more out of it than they put in it.
It's an organization that is built on maturity and teamwork and development and leadership. Kind of fosters people to, it fosters their education and also their development as a person.
ROTC provides opportunities for students to join all branches of the military, from the Marines to the Air Force, as well as, of course, the Navy.
That was a great perspective on the military opportunities for our university. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
This past weekend, I-70 highway was taken over by soldiers, veterans, friends, and family as they waved American flags over Russian cars.
Channel 8 reporter Blake Pickett had the chance to witness this patriotic takeover.
Thanks, Megan and Lacey. It wasn't a patriotic takeover, though. I had the chance to a random act of patriotism.
32 years in the Marine Corps. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I spent 3 tours in Vietnam over a period of 4 years.
The American colors were flying high, but it's where they were flying that makes this special. On a lightly used bridge over a long empty stretch of I-70 through the heart of Kansas.
Veterans Day to me is honoring this flag that a lot of our people have lost their lives defending over the years.
They call this a random act of patriotism, where men, women, children, and even man's best friend come out in support of veterans and their families.
Basically, it's a random act that we pull at any time.
Every veteran has a story.
I was a engineer, combat engineers. I was what they call a senior engineer repairman.
And all stories are deeply emotional to those who served.
What we did was we would go out into the fire bases, estimate damage, and most generally I'd get on a helicopter, go out before the fighting stopped, and we'd estimate our damages and estimate materials, manpower, labor.
But to one veteran, what means the most to him is what is happening on this bridge.
And to see all these young kids come out and stand on this bridge with us, it makes it all worthwhile. And I did 32 years in the Marine Corps. I couldn't be more proud of a bunch of kids than I did any of my Marines at the time I had them.
Seeing those flags waving over I-70 and those people, it made me very proud of my country and the men and women who fight for it.
That was a great story. Thank you, Blake.
Thank you.
That's all we have for this special edition of Channel 8 News. We'd like to thank all of the soldiers, veterans, friends, and family who were part of this show.
We also would like to thank the men and women who work together to protect this country. From all of us at Channel 8 News, we wish you all a safe return home.
For behind-the-scenes access and up-to-the-minute news, get connected with K-State Athletics on social media. Search K-State Sports to join the conversation today.
Powerful ideas are sparked by a natural curiosity. It could begin with a single seed or a brilliant ray of light. At Kansas State University, it begins with research that advances the world, where science and creativity meet. At Kansas State University, powerful ideas begin with you.
K-State Student Radio brings every game to K-State fans on the Wildcat 91.9.
Line's going to take a pitch out to the right. Hubert dices his way up and into the end zone for the Wildcat touchdown. Takes the snap. He's going to roll out. He's going to throw deep over the middle of the field for Tyler Lockett. Catches it. 15-10, 5, touchdown, Kansas State.
For all of your K-State sports coverage, tune into the Wildcat 91.9.